Hey, what's up everyone, Raging Golden Eagle here, having way too much fun as always. Despite the fact that today I'm bringing you some very tragic news, and that this is probably one of the most important videos I'm ever gonna make, at least if you value freedom, I'm not as devastated by this as you guys may have thought I would be simply because I saw it coming a mile away. Maybe not in the way it's happening, but this is something I always expected to happen, although we're gonna get into that shortly. So first off, I'm just gonna give you guys all the facts. Links will be in the description box below if you want to check this out yourself. Well, or link, rather. Conveniently, Operation Rainfall has collected all the relevant links in one place. But either way, that day we've all been dreading looks like it has finally come to pass. When interviewed by PlayStation Lifestyle, Senran Kagura producer Kenichiro Takaki was asked whether or not he and/or his studio have considered implementing an option for toning down the game's busty female characters. And this is how he responded. A little bit. The game started out very small and that was the big selling point in order to move units. Now that the franchise has grown and is getting more popular, it might be worth considering having features that differ depending on where it's being sold. That way it might be able to sell better in certain regions where it would be problematic to have that kind of content. Wow, am I right? The one guy we thought we could trust seems to have, well, putting it bluntly, sold out. Makes it sound like he's absolutely for censoring these games overseas, right? But there's actually a lot more to this. Initially, there was a whole bunch of speculation that we don't have the full context of this interview, we don't know if anything was lost in translation, all of the usual things. But then Marvelous EU went on to clarify, and in fact simply made things even worse. From our understanding, the interview was in relation to future Japanese releases. The interview quote did mention other regions, but our initial understanding was for future Japanese releases. Well, is that so, Marvelous? So basically you admit you may start doing the same things that, say, like what happened with Star Ocean. Just censor the game at the source. Preferably before any materials go out to the public so no one even knows it was censored. Good luck proving it now, huh, weebs? So because of this, I highly suggest all of you guys develop the eyes of a freaking eagle here. Monitor the character designs of the games you like and the storylines and everything else, and when you notice an obvious toning down, you can kinda guess what happened. Now, before I continue, I just want to clarify this. If the context of this is that any future properties they want to create may have slightly toned down sexuality, that's perfectly fine. Not everyone wants to be a one-trick pony their whole life. Though it's gonna sound cruel, but a lot of people find out why they were one-trick ponies the second they try to branch off into something else. Sometimes it ends well, but oftentimes they are quite rudely reminded that they really can only do one thing well. When it comes to Marvelous, hopefully it'll work out, but you never know. That's pretty much all I have to say to that. That's what I wish more companies would do. Instead of ruining existing franchises by removing what makes them unique in the first place, simply create new ones with your new ideas and see if those sell. If this is all they meant, that their future properties will be toned down but Senran Kagura will continue as it has been, I got no problem with it. But let's pretend that's not the case. Let's just say the decision makers are infested to their very core by SJWs, and they do end up toning down the fan service of games like Senran Kagura and Valkyrie Drive. So let's take a look at what that'll leave. The core games as they are right now, gameplay-wise, are merely decent Dynasty Warriors clones. Not bad, still fun to play, but these games need something to stand out among the legions of other Dynasty Warriors clones. In addition to, of course, the granddaddy Dynasty Warriors itself. Graphically speaking, the character models are pretty decent in my opinion. It's clear that that's where the focus is. But even then, they are far from the best that this genre of game has to offer. And when it comes to the backgrounds, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, those aren't very good usually. It's the kind of stuff that even I could make given enough time in a 3D modeling program. Oh, I'm sorry, and I gotta clarify, I meant backgrounds and the general environment as a whole, pretty much anything that's not a character. Music, well, I got nothing good or bad to say. It's not intrusive and I notice it when they want it to be noticed, so good job there, I guess. But add all that together, and take away the awesome fan service that puts this game over the top, and you got something that's a little bit above average at best. And these same criticisms can be aimed at Peach Beach Splash as well. It's a pretty fun third-person shooter, but it's the fan service and the atmosphere that put it above the rest. That is what make me want to pick that one as opposed to all the other third-person shooters that are out there. So if you tone back on the one thing your games actually have going for them, As you said, the big selling point, you damn well better drastically improve literally everything else to make up for it, or else you guys don't have a very bright future ahead of you, is all I'm gonna say. So before I move on to the final topic here, all I gotta say is, keep your damn spine intact. Hold out. These SJW parasites at this point in time are literally just cornered, wounded animals. They are lashing out violently everywhere because they are going down and they know it. They have lost the fight to censor games in the West already, well, except for in cucked countries like New Zealand anyway. And they know that thanks to the internet, we could easily find out that something has been censored and cause a PR nightmare for the censors and the company that chose to censor. So this is the next step they're taking. They're trying to go directly to the source, to censor the games in Japan before they could even make it to the West in the first place. As they, according to the speculation anyway, have successfully been able to do with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But think about this, man. Think about this. This is literally the last possible thing they can try, short of just begging the government to ban stuff they don't like. Don't give in to these fucking terrorists. I can't say it any politer than that. Grow a fucking spine, grow some fucking balls, and stand up to these fucking parasitical terrorists. They have nothing. They have no power. The sales numbers of your games and the fact that they are growing, as you admitted, is proof of this. Do you really want to throw this all away? But don't worry, if you do, it's going to be sad to see you go, but someone else is just going to come up to take your place. That's how the free market works. And speaking of that, have you guys checked out Steam lately? Anything even vaguely pornographic was banned on Steam for the longest time. Then they allowed a couple of uncensored visual novels, although with really no hardcore sex in them. And then that whole fiasco with Lady Killer in a Bind came about. A game which features uncensored rape scenes, mind you. At the time, while everyone was pointing out, oh, you only let this through because it's one of your own in SJW clique people that made it, right? That may be true. But people like me have been saying from the beginning, this is perfect. This is what we want. Because since Steam allowed that game, they have effectively opened the floodgates for all sorts of other pornographic video games to come flooding in. And now they can't turn them away either, because if you can point to something even worse that they allowed on their platform, that, again, PR disaster right there. And what do you know? I was right. Also in the description box below, check out the link to a little game called Material Girl. It's only $2 full price. It's not all that long. But goddamn do you get hours upon hours of porn from this game. Though I will say now, if you do choose to get it, be sure you get the decensor patch as well. Can't really play something like this without it, cause it really is just a porn delivery mechanism more than a game. I'm not gonna try to lie and pretend it's not. That's exactly what this is. And it's horribly translated as well. I mean, damn, even Google's automatic translation should have done a better job than that. But that's not what you're there for, so that's easily overlookable. For $2, I highly recommend it. Got my seal of approval. Full disclosure, unlike the previous times I've pitched these types of games, there's nothing to disclose here. I am in no way affiliated with anyone involved in the creation or marketing of this game. I simply got it myself for $1 and thoroughly enjoyed it, if you know what I mean. I'm still recovering from the soreness. So that tangent aside, why do I bring this up? Well, that game already has thousands of positive reviews on Steam, getting tons of downloads and publicity, all of it that actually matters being positive, mind you. While all of that is going on Steam, in the AAA and specifically console market, they seem to be intent on going the opposite direction. Let's just say I am really looking forward to what the market is going to choose now that Steam has actually allowed them to compete. But anyway, as I alluded to a long-ass time ago at the beginning of this video, the reason this does not surprise me is, despite the fact that the reasons may be slightly different, this type of shit is the same pattern we see with literally any niche property that somehow hits it big. You got someone who's pretty much a nobody in the industry, goes out and creates something truly awesome simply as a work of passion. Over time, or sometimes overnight for those breakout hits, this work of passion suddenly bursts into the mainstream. Everyone's talking about it, everyone's buying it, it's awesome. So now that these properties are mainstream, what do the creators do? Why, of course, now that they're mainstream, They have to quote-unquote appeal to a wider audience. They have to make all sorts of changes to appeal to the lowest common denominator because after all, they're in the mainstream now. Everybody has their eyes on them. And of course, what happens in this process is they end up destroying what made these niche properties so awesome in the first place. Literally what made them mainstream in the first place. These guys pretty much just sit around and look at each other and go, hey, you know all these qualities about this thing that we made that made everyone like it in the first place? The thing that made it go from niche to mainstream? The thing that everyone obviously likes about it because they're supporting it as it is? Well, let's take that out and replace it by something that we see in every other AAA game because we need to appeal to everybody now, not just that niche. Yeah, this literally is the thought process of these idiots. I wish I was lying, but no, we see this time and time again with every single niche property that hits it big. They think it's a good idea to tone down or completely strip out what made it appealing in the first place, what everyone bought it for in the first place. The same people they claim they now have to appeal to liked it as it was, so they gotta remove all of this to appeal to a wider audience. I'm glad Senran Kagura lasted, was it over 5 years now? That's pretty damn impressive. And honestly, it's probably going to last a little bit longer than that. These changes are not going to be taking effect right away. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that I wasn't expecting this. The second I saw their higher and higher sales numbers, I knew it was going to happen eventually. Just like what happened with Dead Space. And yes, I am still bitter about that because Dead Space to this day is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. But after that masterpiece, well, we gotta keep milking the cow, right? So Dead Space 2 comes along. It was passable. I probably could have enjoyed it a whole lot more if I wasn't bitter about the fact that they completely ruined the first game's ending. For those of you who don't know, the first Dead Space, that ending was perfect. Best way they possibly could have ended that game. Then Dead Space 2 comes around and they fucking ruin it by making Isaac the main character again. For those of you that saw the ending of the first game, it would have made a whole lot more sense to have Isaac be the main villain of the second game. But no, they just went and completely screwed the pooch there. They completely fucked it up. So I was kind of bitter about that game from the very start. And that same fuck-up carried through all the way to the end of the last boss of that game. One of the worst last boss fights I've ever had to play through, at least from a narrative standpoint. But gameplay-wise, they actually kept a lot of what made the first game awesome. And in fact, they actually did a pretty damn good job scaring the crap out of me at least once. There was one point in the game where you literally go 5-10 minutes without encountering a single enemy. And the whole time, you're just finding health packs just strewn around like candy everywhere and guns and ammo and everything. So you know something's coming and you're just on edge waiting for something to jump out at you. Then you just walk past one pile of crates, no different than the 20 other pile of crates you just passed, and BAM! Boss just jumps out at you. That was just well done. They did such a good job setting up the atmosphere there. So Dead Space 2 had its good points. So then Dead Space 3 came out and, they decided they want to go Gears of War instead. Is there any surprise that that was the end of the franchise? You see, there's a trope for this. It's called jumping the shark. Whenever a series does that, it very rarely ends well. And unfortunately, a lot of series that start out small and then become breakout hits end up following this path. And on that note, say whatever you want about games like Call of Duty that pretty much release the same game every year. At least they're sticking to what they know their fans actually enjoy. Until they have so much of it and get so sick of it, they stop enjoying it anyway. That's the delicate balance there, isn't it? Keep making improvements to the game while keeping what makes it unique in the first place. Very hard to pull off. But damn, I wish these people would at least try. As opposed to just throwing everything away to appeal to a wider audience. But oh well, that's what the free market is for. And that's all I gotta say, guys. Thanks for listening.